what webinars look like in quarantined times at Ring Communications. Obviously, I'm Kim. This is Jess. We collectively decided that during this time, we would up our content and make ourselves available to all the small businesses out there that are having a hard time. One of the things, this is weirding me out. Like, it's making me look like my hat is crooked.
Is it not in real life?
It doesn't feel crooked, like, but I keep moving it. I've never been good at hats. Like, I'm good at hats, like I look good in them, but like baseball hats, no one's ever taught me like how to get the rim right. Jess and I decided that since so many of our fellow small businesses and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and just everybody in general was in tough times, that we would use, everybody asks us for, to pick our brains and whatnot. So we figured we would use this time to kind of talk about some of the topics we get asked about a lot. And we decided to do it from how we actually normally are. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I just put makeup on. a little bit.
Yeah.
And you definitely did too.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't put makeup on in however many days since we've been quarantined, so this is just like a good excuse to try to look like a normal human. And still, this is what it is.
But your eyelashes look great.
Thanks. That's what I put on, mascara only. So.
Your gloss looks good.
Okay, yeah, you're right, gloss and
and your braids look good.
Thanks.
No problem. So comments from the Facebook Live. Okay, great. All right, so we have a little bit of an agenda, but what we figured we would do is we'll go through kind of just a few things. We'll talk about it, and then we'll open it up for questions and if anybody has anything they want to know. This week we're going to talk about how to spruce up your social media. We all have a little bit of extra time now, so now's a good time to kind of work on your engagement, start crafting some good content. So that's what we're going to talk about. So Jess, if you're ready, I'm going to take our names away.
Yeah.
And let's bring up the first topic that we get asked all the time. And the first one is when to post and how often. And I know you and I both have thoughts about this. The first thing I'm going to say whenever somebody asks me that, also, just so you guys know, it's Wine Wednesday, and I said I was going to be drinking wine. Jess has got, what are you drinking?
Sauvignon Blanc. Honestly, this one is not great. I won't say what brand it is because I'd feel bad, but it'll do.
These are tough times, Jess. I was supposed to drink wine, but then my husband cracked beer, so I'm going to support our friend Andrea's parents' company and Jim Cock, is it Cock? Is it Cock? Jim Cock? Jim Cook. I think it's Jim Coke. But I'm going to support that. So I'm going to drink a Sam, but I will drink wine next time. So when to post and how often? My answer to that is always depending on the platform. So, I'll start with Facebook because I'm a little bit older. And so Facebook is still extremely prominent in the demographic of, 35 to, 80. And there's overlap because I know you're active on Facebook too. So I'll start with Facebook and then we'll roll over to Instagram. The funny thing about Facebook's algorithm is frequency has nothing to do with whether your posts get seen. It's all about the kind of content that you do, but more so how people interact with it. So I think a good strategy is always like, you could get away with posting once a week to Facebook, depending on what your business is. We try to do, I think, at least 3, right, Jess?
Yeah.
And again, I think it comes down to, if you post once a week, but it's highly engaged content, then you're good. But I think, posting 3 times a week, using all of the different functionality, look at this. It's like so crooked.
It's okay.
You want to know what's so funny? I bet my baseball friends are like watching at home, just cringing, like crawling out of their
Yes.
skin at the sight of that. It's driving them crazy. Um, so, Facebook events, the more people
Yeah.
respond to them, they show up in people's timelines more. So if you've got an event that you're hosting, I feel like using that timeline, that whole thing will help. Pictures don't do great, believe it or not. Any kind of article seems to do really well. And we'll get into it a little bit later about like creative types of content. But articles do well because you can't tell if they're native to Facebook or if they're from an outside source. So the things that we've seen that you could post infrequently, once, twice, three times a week, but that would help kind of boost that engagement is Facebook events, Facebook notes, Facebook lives, and any kind of video.
Yeah.
That's my take. But I mean, you're a
Yeah.
little bit younger, so what kind of content resonates with you that makes you interact with it?
I feel like for me and a lot of people my age, I feel like events are like up here now for Facebook. Whereas it used to be links and photos and whatever. Now, literally everything I do on Facebook, I end up seeing an event. And
Yeah,
it might not have been something I was going to go to, but I end up saying I'm interested. And then it spreads it to everyone. And
yeah.
the amount of times that my grandma's like, oh, you go to so many events because of the things I say I'm interested in on Facebook.
But
So,
that's funny that you said that because that's what bucks the algorithm. If
yeah.
you say you're going to an event and two of your other friends say you're going, three people mutual makes that event go forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest mistake that people make is that they create an event, and you can create an event for anything,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure Heather Younger is here. Oh, wait, she just texted me. Hold on. FB Live. Are we not live? It says
I
we're
think we
live.
were. I think I got a notification that we were.
Yeah, I think we're live. Which is a bummer because I'm using her as an example. But you could create an event, say, for like National Cookie Day. And as long as you post within that event versus going back to your timeline, it'll push it even more.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's the biggest mistake because people create the event, but then they jump off. Oh, there's a delay. There's a
Yeah.
delay. That's right. I forgot. There's a delay. So people might be seeing us on a delay, but um, using the event wall, using like any kind of conversation on that is always good. And I see you doing that a lot. Your Bumble events seem to get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of traction, and they buck that algorithm a lot.
Yeah. And it's great because if you have people that come to an event and it's an event as the photographer, what better way to get those people their photos than in the event? Because you don't want everyone that follows you and likes you to have to go through all these photos.
Right.
That's specific to those people that went to the event. It's super convenient. That's, yeah, big fan of the events on Facebook.
The funny thing about Facebook photos too is because everybody seems to think that they can post one photo. What I've noticed is the only time that photos really trip up that algorithm is if it's posted like two or three at a time and all the photos are tagged.
Mm.
So I think so that's the key to Facebook. It's not about the frequency, it's not about the time of day necessarily. It's about knowing exactly where people are looking, right? So again, a notes kind of thing is a great way to introduce a blog, and you could do that once a week. But I think it doesn't come down to the frequency. Like I think that's a lot of people panic and they're like, I need to post something, so they'll throw a photo up. But if the photo doesn't get a lot of engagement, it falls on deaf ears. So
Mm.
advice for Facebook on when to post and how often. I mean, at least once a week to keep it alive and use that one post wisely.
Yeah.
And if you can get 3 posts a week, especially now where times are a little bit slow for everybody and they have a little bit more time, I think if you could do 3 to 5 posts a week, I mean, that's great. As long as it's the right kind of content, the kind of content that people are going to want to attract to and engage with and have conversations on. So again, events,
Mm.
notes, there's polls and
Yeah.
things like that too. that kind of stuff works. So let's roll over though, because Instagram seems to be the main platform that people are focusing on.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like I have it down, but I'm eager because you're on it.
Hmm.
I would normally say you're on it, but I feel like we're on it at this point the same amount, but you
Yeah.
have more people that are on it. So what is your thought process on how many times to post to Instagram?
Um, I feel like on Instagram, you definitely have to be more active than Facebook, at least 4 to 5 times a week. Like, theoretically, a couple days off isn't going to hurt. But I feel like as far as times of day goes, it almost depends on the brand and who their target is and when they're checking, which we do. We do, I think you're going to talk about this later, like a content matrix, and we circle it through different times because you kind of have to test it out and see what performs well
Yeah.
and what times the people that follow you are actually active.
Have you noticed more? And I have, which is what has made me believe that you could get away with posting once to your timeline. I'm seeing things now 2 days later.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my thought process on the Instagram timeline only is you can get away with posting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 times a day. That's not what matters. It matters how good the content is.
Yeah.
Because we all do the thing where we're scrolling and we'll give people likes even though we don't actually like it, but what we're aiming for are those conversations on the
Mm-hmm.
platform. So timeline for sure, I think using the insights to know when people are online. And again, just save it. Some people get so panicked. I haven't posted in 3 days or I haven't posted in.
Mm-hmm.
You can get away with posting once a week on the Instagram timeline if you make that piece of content
Mm-hmm.
like super,
Yeah.
super awesome. People
It's,
are starting to write in questions and I'm psyched for that.
oh.
So why don't we roll through this and then we will take some questions. Our favorite sensei, Andrea's on, and I'm psyched about that. So Andrea, stay with us and I'm going to answer at the end. So thoughts on stories, Jess? Because that
Um,
was Snapchat. So that was your demo. Like
yeah,
that was your demographic, but it's rolled into mine. So
right.
you check stories how many times?
I check stories super frequently, but I don't watch all stories. I feel like, especially like right now that everyone's stuck at home and everyone's going live on Instagram, everyone's posting stories all day long, doing challenges. It's too, like,
It's
personally, I think it's too much. I think it's nice. Like, I like the positive messaging that's out there now because we need it, but I feel like stories, if you're posting like three at minimum to like three within one post at minimum to 10, like don't have one of those little, you know,
right.
dash dash
No, I
dash.
agree. Especially
It's too
because
much.
now, you know what? It's funny. Especially because now everybody's home.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's story, there's way more stories than
Yeah,
normal. So
serious influx.
I'm kind of with you on that. Like three minimum and good
Mm-hmm.
one.
Yeah.
Or if you're just trying to keep your account alive, you can do three, whatever. But three minimum good ones, maybe 10 at the most. And then the sweet spot, I think, is like 5 to 7.
Yeah. My thought is it's better to post something good. Like, don't just post for the sake of posting if you have nothing good at all. Like, for stories, you can do a question, and that
Right.
gives you something. You could do polls that don't look bad. Like, they're just simple, and it gets you engaged and finding out what your followers like want to see.
Yeah.
And it's not like overloading with something that nobody wants to see at all. So
Yep.
I feel like that's the key. If you have no idea what to post, go for a poll or ask questions to your followers.
Yeah. I am still learning IGTV, I'll be honest,
Oh.
but I feel like it's very similar to YouTube, right? So we might as well roll into YouTube. Like, how often do you post to YouTube? I think that answer should be fairly easy if you have a good video.
Yeah, I agree. You don't need to be as consistent on there unless that's what you do. If you're a YouTuber, you better be posting constantly. And if
Right.
not, it's
Right.
not.
But I think
not like it.
IGTV is the same. Like if you have a good video, you should 100% post it to IGTV. And I will say that I love IGTV's ability to share it on your story, share it on your timeline, all of that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Twitter, you know, I still love Twitter. I still can't understand how people think that Twitter is dead. And Twitter is an all day in and out. You can log out, you can check in. You know, I've checked into Twitter sometimes at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and had great conversations. And I think that's the difference than the other platforms. I think if you start viewing Twitter as a place where you're just going in to have conversations, you can go in all day, every day. You can post once, you can come in once a week. You know, I have friends who are like straight up Twitter stalkers that are like on it all the time, but you wouldn't know it. I just personally, I get all of my news from it. So I'm on it all day long. So Twitter doesn't matter so much about how much you post or when to post. Just jump in to the conversation. Don't
Yeah,
you?
I agree with
Don't
that.
you agree?
Yeah.
Why don't we? I'm gonna skip Pinterest unless somebody has like a serious question about Pinterest. TikTok, we're gonna have to ask two for that because it was funny. We were starting this Facebook Live and I got a text from her.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, she's ready for the next TikTok. She's ready to go. So she must know something more about the frequency of TikTok than we
Yeah.
do.
I don't know
So
anything about that.
no, let's do a whole Facebook Live on TikTok. No, seriously, I'm all
Okay.
for it. Let's talk about is Snapchat. I mean, are you even?
No, I feel like Snapchat's kind of dead. I use it strictly like I Snapchat the same people like every day. Pretty much like nothing. It's just how I talk to them as opposed to texting. Or it's where I post like if I've posted too many Instagram stories of like my dog, I then start posting to Snapchat because I don't want to
You
like
feel bad?
overdo it on
You feel
Instagram.
bad?
So the rest of them go to Snapchat. And that's literally all it is anymore.
I've said it for a very long time. I think Snapchat's going to end up just being an augmented reality app for young people, like parents, educators. If they did it right, that could be an amazing tool, add-on tool to places like Disney or anything like that. But I do want to talk about LinkedIn
Okay.
because LinkedIn is important. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's always, I get that question a lot. Like, how much should you post from your business page versus how much should you post from your personal page? And I'm not the best at LinkedIn at all. Like Hannah from the Bride Group loves LinkedIn. How often are you on it?
I don't go on that often. I feel like lately, now that we've been upping our LinkedIn game, I check it a few times a week, but I don't scroll very far.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm really bad at it too. I should probably start using it more often. It's just
I feel like the best way to go about LinkedIn is try to get on there every day. Try to share an article at least every day. You know, the power in LinkedIn is the ability to put your own thought leadership out there. So using like the pulse posts and stuff, but it takes time. Blogging takes time. So bare minimum, just being active, I think helps keep the page a little bit refreshed and showing up. But you know, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. A lot of leads come over. If you're a B2B business, if you're a B2C business, Instagram, Facebook, but if you're a B2B business, your LinkedIn game should be strong. And maybe we should do a whole B2B LinkedIn
yeah.
kind of one. I want to pull in questions actually, though, because they're starting to come in.
Yeah.
Our favorite sensei, who I adore more than literally anything in the world, if anybody needs a positive person to follow during these times, follow Andrea because the gym that she has built in South Boston, the kids that go in there, everything that she does, she's welcomed all of our UFC fighters. Everything about her is amazing. And she loves to learn, which is just, you know, that's like our wet dream. So she asked, would creating an event in your gym or dojo 1 to 2 times a month keep people engaged? Yes.
Yeah.
I think if you have a weekly class, Andrea, or you have a monthly seminar, you should 100% utilize Facebook events. And just make sure that every time you go to post about that class or that event, you do it in the event and not on your timeline. Because the minute you go out of your event and into your timeline, you get bucked by that algorithm. So if you have a class that's like, every Thursday, just go into Facebook events, create that reoccurring event, and keep people posted on it. Now would be actually a great time because you could create these Facebook events for the classes, even though they're not technically there, but you could keep people updated on it. You could tell people when you're opening, you could post videos, things like that. So I think that would be 100% killer. What do you think, Jess?
I was going to say, I know this is something we're going to get into in a little bit, like more specific ideas for what people can do right now, whereas places are closed and people can't see each other in person. But for a gym, even if you were going to do, say, a virtual class or something, create an event for that so that people are updated and it gets the word out. And people who maybe don't even follow you on Facebook will see it just because of what we said. If people are interested in it, their people are going to see it. And it just spreads like that.
And take the extra step. It took me, to invite everybody to this Facebook Live last night in my friends list took a bit. It took a little bit, but it was worth it because the more people, we're getting all of these events and we're getting all of these messages. So it's hard, but if you take the time to like invite all the right people that are going to share it, it'll just help for sure. And I tag Jess in it. So anytime I tag Jess in it, I get all the young people.
Or just like my mom. She's
I love
probably in her room watching right now.
I love your mom. I love your mom. I hope she is watching. Our favorite cookie lady is here, and I love her so much. What's the thought on IG stories using create versus video? So IG stories is a funny thing. I feel like we have kind of come up with a strategy that seems to work, and we'll talk about it when we get into our toolkit, but we try to rotate. So we'll almost dedicate like one whole day when we do it for clients. We'll dedicate like one whole day to like sharing user generated content. And it's usually like Sunday when Jess is hungover. I hungover because I go to bed at 8. But like I know Jess is like, Sunday morning, she's eating an egg and cheese with her bread.
I
Right?
wouldn't even be eating anything at that point.
But so we dedicate that whole day to that. I love Instagram stories. My big thing though is I'm as a business, we don't use it as much because we don't want to put out shitty content. As a person though, like my personal account, I just love funny stuff. If you're gonna do video, make it good video. So, plan it out and really take the time to do video because video is a huge engagement. People would rather watch a 30-second video than read a 300-word blog post or a long, Instagram caption. But in Heather's instance, video should be your thing, girl. I mean, you've got how many types of cookies that you could be making on video right now? You've got all that kind of stuff. And once you do it and you upload it to IGTV, that's the key. Who's killing it? Watch Carrie Kavanaugh right now from Boston 25. You can create the video, upload it to IGTV, and then share it on Instagram stories and on your Instagram timeline later. It doesn't have to be all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been using it to keep thanking people. Absolutely. 100% you're doing it the right way by thanking people. Engagement is key. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about how to get your numbers up. But that was killer. So yeah, Heather, I think you should be doing videos. I think you should take the time to do them. I think videos would be awesome for you, for sure. Matt O'Brien is any tips for organically growing a podcast audience? Love the stream. Thank you. I'll be honest, like podcasts, this girl's killing it. That girl's killing.
Oh my
You know,
God.
I'm gonna take some credit because she learned it. She had to act like, but she learned it from us. So, but her podcast, not kind of safe for work with Morgan, has grown a bit organically. Tell them how you've done it.
I mean, our growth has been it was definitely slow to begin with. But I feel like in the past, especially now that we have more time, we're seeing more growth because we're both working from home and have so much more free time than we usually do. Like I'm not watching The Bachelor on Monday nights and going to bars on the weekends. So
I hope not.
I think just for the most part, it's staying active. And what I found from a podcast, since it's kind of a unique type of business or outlet, I guess,
Yeah.
is I've found people with similar themed podcasts or ones that we really like. And then I find people who are super engaged with theirs. And I just follow them or like comment on a few of their things, hoping that they'll at least check ours out. And a lot of the times they have. And then I've seen them rate ours a few days later and say they liked it. So I think finding someone in a similar category and seeing who likes theirs and just trying to go for those same people because odds are they're going to like yours too.
That's great. You should start doing that for ours now too, because we have
I,
free time. But also, one of the things I think, people forget to do once they create a podcast is to push it across all the channels, not just the second the podcast goes live,
mm-hmm.
but like throughout. You
Yeah.
can regurgitate that content in a bunch of different ways. You know, um, there's a program called Wave that lets you take an image with an audio overlay for a quick tweet, and that kills it. Or repurposing it on LinkedIn later. I think that's a big part of podcasts is, you can't just put content out there. You have to put content out there and then drive people to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the big thing that everybody does is they'll create like a podcast episode and they'll push it and they'll push it and they'll push it in a mushroom cloud. So you'll see that podcast episode and then you won't see it again. But the reality is some of those topics that I'm sure you talk about could be relevant a month later. So it's just constantly keeping it in the rotation.
Yeah. Yeah. And depending on what the theme of the podcast is, if it's sports, you can share things that are totally unrelated to your specific podcast, but are in your realm, articles or funny videos or whatever. And it just gives you more content and gives you an excuse to chat with the people that follow you and have those conversations. So,
Yeah. Yep. 100%. So those are the only questions on that one. So let's move on to the question that I get all the time. I forgot the S on this, but listen, these are tough times. Can't be expected to spell everything right and get my hat straight. How do I get more followers? That is like the number one question everybody asks me when they find out I'm a social media professor and a business owner. Like, how do I get more followers? And don't buy them.
oh my God,
Ads,
don't buy them,
don't buy them.
please.
Don't buy them ever. If I've seen influencers buy them, and I get that because they're just trying to get their numbers quick. But if you're just trying to really be an honest kind of growing business and doing it grassroots and grinding it out, don't buy your followers. There's a couple things that really do work, and the same system works across every platform. First and foremost, you have to be a person. I think on Twitter, it's easy because you're having these conversations. But I think when people come to Instagram or Facebook, they start to become an advertiser and not a person. And that leaves out that whole thing that this was all built on, which is social media. And engagement really does build your numbers. I mean, I have some silly number of followers on Twitter, and I got it just by jumping in and out of conversations that I felt like I could lend some kind of knowledge on or could be funny about.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think ads work for certain industries. Like if you're a restaurant and you're about to open, I think putting a couple bucks into social media advertising to get followers and targeting it the right way within, people within a certain amount of distance of where your physical location is. But for the most part, I think it should be done organically. And, it all comes down to engagement. And the first one is be a person. Go through and comment on other people's pictures. Go figure out who the people in, real life you would network with and follow them and engage with them online. And then also Instagram following hashtags and things like that will help introduce you to new followers. Like when I first started my company, Twitter was huge for me. And it was huge for me because there were certain things I just liked to talk about. I liked to talk about baseball. I liked to talk about hockey. I like to talk about this. So I started having conversations with other fans of those sports. And it just so happened that a lot of those fans were in the media. So again, you can't go into it thinking, I want to get everybody to follow me and like me. And that's what everybody's thinking. How do I get 1,000 followers? I just want to have good connections. I wanted that before there was social media. And I think
Mhm.
that's the key is make those connections with the people that are most likely to agree with you, buy from you, like you,
Mhm.
want to talk to you, all of those things. Do you what is your thought?
No, I think that that's super spot on because you could have a great feed of things people want to see, but no one wants to be following hundreds of thousands of people. Like they want to follow a select amount of people, and if they're gonna have to choose between you and someone else, if you're the one making the connection with them or having something that just draws them in a little more, that's that's gonna keep someone or
I
get them to
think
choose to keep you
I
on their timeline.
and I think honestly, I think it takes it takes just as much work.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
feel like everybody's so concerned again about like, what do I post? What do I put out? What do I put out? And I feel like it takes a little bit of work. And I spend just as much time every morning, every afternoon, and every night going through and making sure that I'm having those conversations. And I just think that's the step that everybody
mm-hmm.
forgets because we're so worried about what we're putting out there.
Yeah,
Like, I have a deal coming up. I got to put it out right now. So they throw it out on Instagram, but it might not show up on their timeline 2 days later. But if you're active with
yeah,
those people and you're having conversations, um, you're good. So you want to open it up to some questions?
yeah. We have some. Let's do
I'm going to open up with the first question that I love. How do I get more one?
it. I love that. I have that question too. I need to know the answer.
So the answer is I think Drizzly is delivering in some liquor stores. Also, Oza Mimosa will deliver mimosas in a can right to your
Mm-hmm.
door.
They're really good. I have
But
seen.
the real question is, how does the world get more cookies? Um, so, and then obviously, look at this lovely, lovely lady. I bet she comes from a beautiful family of knowledgeable sources. But it is actually a really good question because I do get this a lot.
Mm,
She had a client once that bought a lot of followers and she took it over. So what do you do? Now you've got these kind of like dead followers that aren't doing anything. Not dead by
mm,
like dead. But like, what do you do? Can you
mm,
scrub them? Not really.
mm.
It's just a matter of like remembering what your actual number is. We all have bots that follow us. I actually have two terrible reviews on my company from two people who I'm not even convinced are real people. I think the key is to just, again, I don't think I think that it should be focus should be on the content and the engagement and not so much the follower size. I think
Yeah,
too many people are focused on how many followers they have and on how many followers there are, and it doesn't. That's not what matters. Because
yeah,
I could, on Instagram alone, I could like hashtag the shit out of a post and get a ton of followers, but they could be in Kansas City. They'll never eat at my restaurant. They'll never do
yeah.
anything like that. So I try not to focus on the sizes as much. There should be a small amount of growth with
Mm,
an increased engagement strategy. But unfortunately, even if they didn't pay for them, bots are everywhere. And
yeah,
bots are attracted to hashtags and things like that. That's why we try to be as organic as possible.
yeah.
What do you think?
Oh no, I agree. I feel like it's much better to have a good quality of followers that interact with your things and are actually caring about the content than just fake or, people that follow because of a hashtag that are never going to actually be of use to you. Like they're just there on, Instagram. I had someone who had reached out to me about possibly working with us a while back, and then their big thing, they're like, I just want more followers. I'll buy them if I have to. And I was like, nope, I don't think this is gonna be. I was like, no, I don't think you should do that. It's just, like the point was that it doesn't matter if your competition has a couple thousand more followers than you if they bought their like it doesn't matter. It's
It
about what you're
doesn't.
posting and what you're engaging with, and that people actually are seeing what you're posting and care about it, and that it's useful information or what they need to
100%.
see.
If we asked any of our restaurant clients right now, how many of the followers that you get, if they never came in to eat at your restaurant, would it matter? Right? Because restaurants are always, I got to figure out another camera angle, or like I got to do something about that. If every, if all of the likes that you're getting and all the followers you're getting will never come and eat at your restaurant, and you're measuring whether or not you're successful on butts and seats,
Mm-hmm.
it's dead air. You know who used to tell me and taught me so much about this was the String.
Oh, I
Pete
believe that.
Stringer, from when he was VP of digital over at the Celtics, he taught me so much because he was like, the Celtics will get 100,000 likes on a picture. Does that mean they're buying tickets or they're tuning into our games? It's the conversations that matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not the size. So I'm going to pull up another one. Actually, I'm going to go in order. Andrea, we love you too.
Mm.
We do. I don't even, I have to pull this one up because she's dead on. I mean, is there anybody that disagrees with that?
No.
Andrea Mendy's Instagram is the greatest. And anybody who wants to know how to do a prison workout, I don't know how she has to. If anybody needs to figure out how to work out right now, follow Andrea Mendy's.
Yeah.
We miss her. I love her. I hate that she's so far away, but her content is highly enjoyable. Also, this is a great one. I knew this was going to come at some point. Is it true you can catch the virus from the phone? I've had several. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my friend Stephen Grant. Right? We've been friends since nursery school. This is his honest to God question. And if you need money, there's probably $1,000 hidden all around the city. Plentyof20s.com. And can you catch the virus on the phone? Yeah, you can. Don't call me. All right. Another question from Heather Younger. We are trying to use polls to get engagement up. Do you recommend one platform for that, or do you do it all over? I've always done it on both Instagram and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I found that those two work the most. Facebook's tricky though, because if you don't already have that engagement, again, that post has to trick the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I get way better interaction on Instagram.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But 100% keep using polls, especially, if you have the right topic, like if we put out there, which is the best form of PR, like who's going to answer that? You make cookies. Like, are you
Yeah.
serious? Put up a poll that like, which cookie would you eat right now? I take that poll,
Yeah.
especially like in these times.
Mm-hmm.
If you could eat a cookie right now, what would it be?
Yeah.
A hot cookie. All right. So then the next question. Best form of active engagement: IG story, open questionnaires. Ooh, IG story polls.
Mm.
I am a big fan of engagement in all forms across all platforms. I believe that you should be popping in and out of conversations on Twitter multiple times a day. I think you should be leaving comments on people's Instagram timelines multiple times a day. I think tapping through people's stories are fine. I think YouTube, I mean, that's an interesting one because YouTube, the more engagement you have, the more it pushes. So, you can get down a YouTube hole, but spending a little time like connecting with like-minded people who are putting videos out there. But to me, I've always found the most engagement on Twitter.
Mm.
Always.
Yeah. I feel like if I'm just going to put the two of Instagram stories, like open questions or polls, I think I only use like an open question where someone can type their own answer if I'm looking for, I don't want to say a very specific thing, but I guess like when I was looking for a curling iron, I put it out there and got a ton of responses. Like if I wanted to say book recommendations, like something like that. But otherwise, polls I feel like almost are more like the fun
Yeah.
If you want to get the engagement, do it fun, like this versus that, two super popular things that you just want the engagement for.
Well, yeah, and you know, there's always that person that tries purposely to vote the opposite.
Yeah.
Is my dog cute? Like, there's always that person that's
Yeah.
like, no, and I'm like, you're lying.
Block you immediately.
But it's funny because you're right. I actually do love the questions, and I actually do love the polls if you're doing it for market research.
Mhm.
So if you're doing like which of these designs you like better,
Yeah.
that's a killer. But if you're just
Mhm.
doing it just to ask silly questions,
Yeah.
you're gonna get
Then it's
silly.
just like the engagement, but it's not as helpful. But yeah, I literally just voted on a bunch of those because everyone's on Instagram right now asking questions. I helped some girl decide on what desk she should get for her room. Like,
But that's the
it's fun.
thing. Like if it's literally asking someone's valid opinion on something, then I do stupid polls all the time. I'm the
Mhm.
queen of stupid shit. But like I tell my kids all the time at Suffolk, like you guys have if you have a large, like if your entire network is highly engaged on Instagram, use that for some kind
Mhm.
of market research. 100%. Most of my network is on Instagram and Facebook. So I love polls on both of those, but I try to use them wisely. Otherwise it's just, you know, just funny, stupid shit. Obviously I have to show this. We all love Steve Grant. I don't know. You know what? Let me tell you something. My friend Steve Grant is no slouch when it comes to marketing because he's gotten his name now mentioned a million times just by being him. In fact, he waited for his number so it would open up, and his number is now 617 amazing. Did you not know that?
No, I didn't.
Steve Grant has never slipped you his number?
I don't know.
We'll
Not
make
at
sure
least
that
not in that form.
we'll make sure it happens. 617 amazing. All right. And we all love Steve Grant, Brenda. Everybody does. This is not the Steve Grant show, though, but I do love him too. In fact, I love him so much that I look forward to when I get Valentine's from him, like the old school, like card Valentine's. Yeah. Another question from Kelly. Should you have two accounts, personal and business? I 100%, unless your business is being you, I think that you should have two.
Yeah.
My business isn't being me, thank God. Thank God it's being Jess. Otherwise, we'd be bankrupt. But I believe in being yourself and then having your business be different.
Yeah, because I feel like otherwise there's a fine line where if you want to post something personally, you have to then consider how it portrays the business or does it fit what the business is doing, and then it just gets tricky. So
Yeah.
I think
And like I can't use the word cunt on our business stuff, but I can use it on my personal stuff.
well, I don't know. Is this a business live? I think.
We're all in quarantine, Jess. Like rules are out the window right now. Don't you?
Yeah,
Let's just roll with what we got.
that's true.
At this point, we're both wearing sweatshirts. We're in our pajamas. I'm in my clean pajamas. I changed.
Oh yeah, me too.
No, I got out of my day pajamas and I showered, and now I'm in my night pajamas.
See, that's how I've been. I was wearing my Feast with 45 t-shirt earlier. It's my favorite. It's the most comfortable t-shirt I own. But then I got chilly because I had my window open. So
Now you have
I don't know whose sweatshirt this is. I found it in my house.
See, but why can you say that if this is our professional one?
I don't mean like that. My brother threw it on the couch and asked if it was mine. And now it is. I claimed it.
I have a lot of those sweatshirts that now they're mine. All right. So next topic. What's in our toolbox?
Yes.
What do we use? People ask us a lot because we do create for our clients some pretty dope Instagram stories. Some of the things we use. I love Mojo.
Mm-hmm.
Mojo is a great app that creates awesome like marketing type, but also kind of cool Instagram stories.
Mm-hmm.
I also use Canva all the time.
Canva is a lifesaver.
Yep.
I rely on that for so many things.
Yep. iMovie app. I love. Scheduling wise, we use Hootsuite and sometimes we use Planoly. Planoly is a great one if you're like heavily Instagram focused because it can help you like visualize your timeline and move pictures around, and you'll get like a really, really good view of how colors play and how images play and all of that stuff. So those are some of the things that I'm using. I'm trying to think of what else I use for social.
I've used In Stories
Oh, I use
and
that. Yep.
Unfold. Those are both good
That's
Insta
a good one.
story templates. Um, Story Art is another one
Oh, I don't
that
use
has a
that
cute.
one.
Yeah, I'm looking at my phone right now to check. I don't know. Pretty much, they all do the same things, but I feel like they just take it up a notch from if you were just doing it straight in Instagram.
Yeah, I think Instagram has the best apps that go with it.
Yeah, I
Insta
agree.
Stories is good. Mojo is good. Everybody should start using Canva.
Mm-hmm.
For Facebook, we're using Be Live right now,
Mm-hmm.
which you're going to do a lot of Facebook Lives, I think is killer. It's for their premium right now. It's like, I don't know, $30 a month, and you can have up to 4 guests. Oh, that reminds me. I have to figure out how to send, we'll do Michael Silver another time as a guest. We'll do like a whole episode with him. He does social media for Fox Sports. I think he did it for Complex. He's a big sneakerhead. He's so interesting. And that's completely my fault. But Be Live is a great way to brand any kind of Facebook Lives there is. Um, Hootsuite's awesome for scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Nancy's on here, but Nancy, who does our LinkedIn, it's been awesome for her because she can schedule out LinkedIn posts for weeks in advance. Other than that, I mean, that's pretty much all I use. Oh, I use Wave. Wave is
Mm-hmm.
a great one where you can overlay sound over a picture. I use that for Twitter a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all I have in my toolbox.
Um, yeah, I think that's about all I use. If you do want some different editing, I know Andrea, who we've already said her Instagram's great, uses Lightroom. So sometimes I use that because she shared her presets with me.
She
So
shared presets with me too.
yeah,
That's actually a good one. That's right. Lightroom is a great one.
yeah. So
And any of those photo editing apps,
mm-hmm.
any of them really work because you see them all the time. If
Yeah.
you're not a great photographer, I'm not great at lighting at all. My sister is actually great at it because she got it from my dad. But so those apps do help if you're not like the best at photo editing. There's a lot of them that have those preset kind of filters and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I know Andrea loves Lightroom. If she was on here right now, I bet she has a bunch of other recommendations.
Yeah.
All right, we'll pull in another question. Would you imagine, let's say, a podcast that opens up a dialogue through those methods you guys just mentioned, seeing growth? I don't know what that means. I don't understand the question. Jess, you're way smarter than me. What does that mean?
Um.
Let's say a podcast that opens up a dialogue through I mean, everything should open a dialogue.
Mm,
Is that like a
maybe like a marketing podcast.
yeah, like don't you think everything should have a dialogue? If you have a podcast, you should 100% have a chat that goes with it or a
Mm-hmm.
Instagram live that goes whatever. Like everything on social media should encourage the social aspect of it. Otherwise, it's advertising.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, that's the whole point of social media is social. It's connecting with like-minded individuals. So anything that you can put into place. And even sometimes you can take a podcast and roll it over to like YouTube and then you can
Yeah.
have conversations. I mean, look at Joe Rogan. The
Yeah.
guy's super successful. All right, I'll show this one just for a second. We love you too. But clearly you love Steve Grant more because Steve Grant got love from you, Brenda, before we did. It's uh Ring Communications After Dark. We're not there yet. We might
This is just us all
episode.
day.
Yeah, in some kind of satin with some kind of like eye mask. I don't
I
know.
had my eye mask. I almost put it on, but it didn't go with the sweatshirt. So
We'll go next week. Right now I'm covered in like flour and stuff. This is basically what I look like on
yeah,
any
next
given
week will
day.
be legit pajamas.
Next
Pajamas.
week, once we figure out that people are actually into this,
Yeah.
yeah, next week's pajamas. Jess does need a new top shelf cookie shirt.
Yes.
Everybody does. In
Every.
fact, Heather just released a 26.2 shirt. If you have a friend that was supposed to run the Boston Marathon and didn't get to, I highly recommend sending either her 26.2 shirt or she's got left on Boylston cookies. Send something to somebody
That
that
would
was
be-
supposed to run the Boston Marathon, because that is a tough thing, man. You've been training and you've got a date in mind. Now it's pushed back 6 months, throwing everybody off, and people are probably bummed. So anything you can do for those runners, Heather's got you covered.
Yeah.
Kelly, my sister, loves Canva. We all
Canva is
agree.
so good. I
Canva's
could
the
not
best.
recommend it enough. Even the free version
Yeah.
is great.
But we use the team version. It's
We
awesome.
do.
You know, we can share things and all of that. I've used it for everything. I even use it for Suffolk.
Yeah. Oh, I use it for things constantly. And sometimes I find myself in our team on there just making random stuff. And I'm like, oh, sorry, the team's going to see what I'm making.
We
Hello.
love your creativity, Jess. You keep creating. Oh, Fabiana, hey, lady, we miss you. How are you? So good. All right. So we talked about what's in our toolbox. Now, tips for handling social during times of crisis. My first and foremost, and Jess was actually my social media student, which is how she got the job here, and it all comes full circle. The main thing I'm always going to say is that the second a crisis hits, think about the scheduled posts you have and turn them off, and rethink your strategy. You know, we have been, for the most part, kind of lackadaisical on our own social media. And now in times of crisis, our first reaction wasn't like, what do we do to promote ourselves? Our first reaction was, how do we help other small businesses? So anytime there's a crisis, think about your entire social media presence and stop it, pivot, and start over again. But you in particular, social media stresses you out.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. So what are some of your keys to handling social media at this time?
I'd say during a crisis or anything like this, one of the big things is to keep the messaging positive, because our news feed is flooded right now with stressful information.
Yeah.
All over the place. Like, we need more than ever positive messaging, whether it's you create content on here's some ideas how to help, here's how to keep busy at home, or if you don't have content that you can create because you had to shut down for a few weeks and you can't be creating new content, share feel good stories, because that's what people need. Anything like that is much better than trying to keep your normal presence going as if nothing's wrong.
Yeah. One of the things that helped me after the election, actually, I just couldn't take it anymore. And it took me a solid 2 hours to do, but I cleaned up my social media in the sense that on Twitter, I muted certain words. So, you know, right now you could mute coronavirus, COVID-19. Like, you can mute those words so that those things don't show up if it's really getting to you. You can also on Twitter create lists, like, and bucket your followers so that if there are just people that are constantly talking about it, you can just focus on one list at a time. And I have those lists. I have sports lists. I have business lists. I even have a list, like a hidden list that nobody knows about, that's just positive people. And it's Dan Roach, John Wallach, Kennedy. Like, it's people that are just talking about cats and dog videos and nice things. So there are ways on Twitter. Instagram's a little harder because I feel like right now everybody's on the same kind of path that you and I are on. Like, let's get that content out. So I'm seeing a lot of Instagram lives, but I'm liking the Instagram lives actually. I may not be tuning in for the whole time, but I love Carrie Kavanaugh's. Carrie Kavanaugh's keeping the conversation going about this like new normal. I obviously tune into every single one of Dana White's lives because he has cool guests.
Yeah.
Anybody that does that, like, I'm all about. But we're all using Instagram right now, so that's a little flooded. So it's a little bit harder to navigate. But again, if you just follow certain hashtags, and there's so many hashtags that you can follow that are like self-care and love and positivity, that would flood your timeline more. And I think, you know, limiting your time, you're awesome at that. You are
Mm-hmm.
very, very good about Jess, I will say you are so good about balancing your online and offline time. I'm not. I'm online
Mm.
constantly.
I have to put my phone on do not disturb for a few hours every night, and when I sleep, it's on do not disturb until I wake up because I just need that separation. So like if I sit down to read at night, I will sometimes check it. Like I put on do not disturb, and if it's within my reach, I'll grab it and like check my texts. But usually, I'll try to put it away and not
That's good.
feel like it's so necessary because otherwise I just go crazy and I'll be
I
on it.
think I think that's good. And I think everybody's my favorite thing is I'm going off this platform for a while because I can't take the negativity. Like you don't have to go off the platform. There's ways to
Mm-hmm.
hide it.
Yeah.
There's also ways on Instagram, like if the same person is posting constantly, like you don't have to follow them. Like you can still like people and not follow them. You can,
Yeah.
same on Facebook. Again, it took me 2 hours, but I went through and just unfollowed anybody that couldn't stop talking about politics or coronavirus. There's, the people that made social media are actually in there trying. They did develop it a way where you could customize it. We just
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. If you don't want to hurt someone's feelings by unfollowing them, because I mean, you should be able to do that. It, shouldn't affect people that much, but sometimes it does. Mute them, mute their stories. I have so many people muted on Instagram because I just can't deal with seeing them, but I also don't want to have to bump into them at a local restaurant or bar and be like, oh yeah, like,
Or you won't now.
yeah. No, now I'm
April
good. Now maybe
7th.
this is the time. They'll forget about it within the next 2 weeks or so.
This will be the time that everybody should, you know what? This is the time. Go in and clean out all of your like social media accounts.
Yeah.
You really don't need to follow your high school friend that really didn't like you that much.
No.
I got a bunch of those. Like, why are you following me? You never liked me then. You don't like me now. Just admit it. In fact, leave a big fuck you under one of my pictures and then peace out. Right? These are tough times. All right. I only need the people that I'm closest to. Okay. Good question. What are the best reasons, other than creeping on Instagram models? Fair. That's fair to get on Instagram. Everybody's on it.
Yeah.
Everybody's on it. But it's a tough one, because there are some accounts that do really, really well by posting like memes and stuff, but everybody has that like panic thing or like, what do I post? What do I post? But it's not always about what you post. You can still be on Instagram and leave comments under friends' posts or businesses' posts, or you still get news that way. So the best reason to be on there is everybody else is on there.
Yeah.
Do you disagree?
No, I think that's a really good answer.
Okay,
I have
good.
nothing to add. Nothing to add.
Okay. Is that still a thing? Should your Instagram be uniform with the same presets, or is it better being more spontaneous? It's funny about Instagram. So I don't think we don't use presets necessarily, but we do follow a certain theme. Like every time Jess, myself, or the girls look at our Instagram feed, we make sure that it aesthetically looks good. Like I always think about our Instagram as like a magazine. Like our Instagram feed is like the magazine of Ring Communication. So visually it has to look good. But I'm not so hell bent on it being that uniform. We
Mm-hmm.
have a system where we know that there's certain color schemes that we go with. We know that it has to have red, it has to have black, it has to have white. We know that every fourth or fifth picture is going to be a block of color. So we look at it as the timeline more as the aesthetic. And I don't worry so much about the presets. But, you know, we're not an influencer account. So I know for influencers, it's a lot different. And for a lot of brands, it's a lot different. We just try to be more mindful that it flows well. And that's where those tools like Planoly really do come in handy, because when you can move things around and see how colors play off of each other, you can kind of visualize what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like I would say it's more important to know that as opposed to knowing one specific preset, because sometimes a picture just doesn't look good with that preset. And then you have to decide whether you don't post that picture at all because it doesn't look good, or whether you post something that doesn't necessarily go with your feed. And also knowing your branding, because you could say my branding is pink, but there's a million shades of pink. And if you post every single one of them, it's going to look kind of crazy when someone clicks on your page. So at least having like a few specific ones that you go between and stay kind of in that realm, I think that's more important than one specific preset across the board.
Yeah, and I really do think that unless you're a graphic designer and you have a graphic designer like laying out your Instagram timeline for you,
Mm-hmm.
you should use something like a Planoly, or I think our Morgan uses something too. I don't think it's Planoly, but she uses something where you can visualize whether or not your timeline is going to look good and you can move
Mm-hmm.
things out. So I think even just adding like that small tool helps. I personally, if I spent all the time to worry about how every single one of our pictures looked, how many people really look at your Instagram timeline as a
Mm-hmm.
whole? We see one picture at a time. So you also have to remember that the people that are viewing it, do they remember that everything is the same?
Right.
It's more for a marketing perspective.
Yeah, I was going to say, I almost feel like it's more important if you're a new Instagram page because you're trying to gain followers. And if they don't know who you are and they click on your page, that might sway them. But if you have someone, even if it's 100 followers already and you have a bunch of posts, maybe it doesn't matter as much. But if your first few are totally sporadic and look a mess next to each other, that's maybe the only time I would say like
Right.
that's important. Otherwise, it kind of gets less important as time goes, and it's, as we said, the content individually.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And you know, we struggled with that for a little bit. We were throwing up anything, but just by adding that little extra step of consciously looking at the timeline as a whole has helped us like plan out what we're going to post, I think, a little bit.
Mm.
Okay, so a couple of things. We already did that one. Again, yes, Left on Boylston is the best cookie. And Heather and I were chatting today, and I really think I have a person that was running the Boston Marathon who was like uber bummed that they weren't doing it. So I'm definitely going to send them a pack of cookies with a note that just says, sorry, sorry it's delayed, but all the best. Fab Fighting, anybody, this is such a great, I love her so much. And I love this hashtag. Anybody that is affected by breast cancer, whether you're a survivor, a fighter, a family member, or anybody, connect with each other on social media using that hashtag. Richard, the mute button is amazing. 100% agree with
Big
that. I
fan.
love it. So is unfollow. Unfollow on Facebook is fab.
Yeah.
Will you be doing a wine webinar and email marketing? 100%. I think our next one is going to be PR. And I've invited Nicole Russo and Sarah McMahon to join us on the next one. And then the one after that is going to be on digital marketing, which will be anything from like email marketing to content marketing to all that. And wine will definitely be involved.
Mm.
This is just my husband started pouring beer, so I drank those instead. Thank you. It's not very uniform, but we're working on it. It is what it is. All right, next topic. So creative content ideas. This is where we thought we would open it up. And, one of the things that makes us unique is that we are very kind of creative. And Jess and I are constantly thinking about like content that people could be doing, especially if they're not clients. Like we don't really work with the UFC unless there's like a Boston fight. But the second somebody gives us the opportunity, both of our minds are like, oh my God, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that. So we thought we would open it up and we could talk about some industries that are struggling to find that good content. Because again, it's that good content that really helps your social media presence. It's not about how often you post or posting a salesy thing. We got 10% off. It's all about the good content, the content that's going to resonate with people and draw them in. So we thought we would kind of open it up with some ideas that we had for certain industries. And then if anybody wants to ask us for some ideas, let me just double check and make sure the last topic, that is the last topic. So some content ideas based on the industries that we represent. So I'm going to let Jess open it up with hospitality because you have been very, very active in the hospitality space. And I know that your creative brain has been thinking about some cool stuff that, out of work bartenders or restaurants or chefs or things like that could be doing. So throw some creative ideas at them.
Yeah, especially right now where people can't just post the normal, we're open to, this is when people need to be especially creative. I've
Right.
seen a lot of bars sharing cocktail recipes either straight up as a post or doing a full on tutorial on their Instagram stories or Instagram Live,
Always love
which
that.
is so entertaining. I've enjoyed those a lot. If you have a sommelier at your restaurant, maybe they're at home, but could you get them to go live and do a virtual wine and food pairing with things that you have lying around the house? Like, what wine would I eat with my drink with my PB&J?
My Easy Mac.
Yeah, exactly. Things that everyone has. Like that would be a
Right.
fun one. Um, Employee day in the life takeovers. It was something we talked about maybe doing. Like, here's my work from home outfit of the day. Probably sweatpants.
No, this is it.
This is it. um, or you
I
could
actually,
just
my hair would be in a bun. This hat would be on. I have no makeup. This would be
true.
it.
Yeah, I wouldn't put any makeup on then. But if I knew I was doing a takeover, I might have thrown some on.
But that's a good idea. Like giving
Yeah.
somebody a behind the scenes look.
Yeah.
The restaurant industry, think about the wealth of knowledge alone that is. How to make drinks,
Yeah.
how to make easy dishes with things that are in your closet. Michael
Yeah.
Schau, that was like his big thing. He wanted to make a cookbook, like a collegiate cookbook of like things that you can make with like a few things. All of
Yeah.
that stuff is super useful. Things you can make with kids,
Yeah.
you know, cocktails, beers, like how to pour a perfect Guinness and like all of those things. Those are great ideas for hospitality.
Yeah, I agree. Or even if you have old content that was never used for some reason, like videos, of behind the scenes stuff, use that now. Throw it back to happier times when your restaurant was open and you were all together. And there you go. You had no reason to use it before, but now is the perfect time.
100%. Other industries that we represent, we'll go to fitness, right?
Hmm.
Andrea, I don't know if you're still on, but one of the things that stood out to me was Joe Lozon. One of the things that I adore about Joe Lozon is that he's been doing like mat sessions with kids, but he's been doing them from his living room. And so all the kids kind of tune in from home and he holds a class. And I think if you're some kind of fitness instructor or anything like that,
Hmm.
that's killer. And you can do it in a number of ways. You could pre-record them and use them on YouTube and let people access them on demand. You could do live on Facebook, live on Instagram, any of those things. I
Yeah.
think, right now, you know, I'm a pretty active fitness person. I work out every day and I'm okay, but a lot of people rely on that gym or rely on the
Hmm.
equipment that's there or the classes that are there and are kind
Yeah.
of lost right now. So I think having that ability to tune into any kind of class, whether it's Peloton or
Hmm.
jazzercise or whatever it is,
Yeah.
bar, I think all of those are awesome. And I
Yeah.
think, anything, remember too, there's a lot of people in a house at any given time. I'm seeing a lot of kid stuff and I'm
Yeah.
seeing a lot of personal stuff. I would love to see Sensei Andrea do some kind of like protection kind of one, or like somebody do a couples one or something like that, because I'm seeing a lot of fitness and it's awesome, but I would love to see something a little bit different. Like I would love to see a self-defense. I've
Yeah.
always wanted to take a self-defense class. Everything that's kept me from taking a self-defense class has been time,
Yeah.
and I have time now. And if Andrea went live and was, teaching a couple little fuck you up kind of movements, like I'd be all about it. Or again, my husband and I are trying to figure out how to work out together. We're very gym ratty people and we go and do our own thing, and now we're trapped in the house. So we're trying to figure out how to work out together.
Hmm.
Also Andrea Mendes, who we've already mentioned, she's got Andrea Mendes Fit, and it looks like she's really coming up with some creative stuff too. So
Yeah.
any kind of fitness that's a little bit different than what everybody else is doing is good.
I
Um,
think another kind of fun post, strictly, it could just be one thing from any type of fitness place. Go around the house and find different things that could be used as weights or like makeshift things. Do a post on what the equivalents are. This wine bottle equals this weight. Use this
Yep.
when we're doing this workout. Like that's what it's come to. You gotta use wine as weights.
But that's,
But
I hate to use the term, but it's because it's called a prison workout, but that's like people can work out without high tech equipment.
mm-hmm.
It can be done. And I
Yeah.
love, and my is right. Like I love those posts too. I also I love anything that has to do with teaching kids something different. How many parents, right, would love to put their kid in like a karate program, but they don't have the money right now. But
Mm-hmm.
getting them on, like, just getting them excited about it or anything like that. I think any kind of instructor, I'm also a professor, and I feel like there's so many parents right now
Mm-hmm.
that are trying to figure out how to teach their kids and keep their kids engaged. I mean, I'm having a hard time myself, and I'm probably like one of the most engaging professors at Suffolk, and I'm struggling. So, any kind of content that you can put out there that can help a parent out, if
Mm-hmm.
you know a game or a trick or a craft or something that they can do, everybody needs help right now. So,
Yeah. I think
go
I was
ahead.
just as tough as these times are, and obviously I wish it weren't like this. I've really enjoyed seeing how people have gotten creative. I've seen people reading live on Facebook to kids. I think
I
the
love that.
superintendent of Taunton Public Schools recently did it. This artist, I think from Quincy, did a drawing class for kids, and her
Love
name was
that.
Holly Nichols. She had some like stuff that they could download ahead of time, and then she taught them how to go from there on and draw things. Like people have gotten so creative, and you have to, but it's nice to see that people have done a great job at that.
100%. I we my I call her my cousin, but I went to grad school and she was a great friend of mine. Her name is Caitlin. Well, her name is Caitlin now because she married my cousin. I introduced her to my cousin Brian. They got married. She works with this amazing company called Revel, and they were experiential marketers, and they've been trying to figure out how to shift their business model to online now that things are kind of closed. And they are willing to host anybody that wants to host a class like this but doesn't feel like they have the tech savvy to do it. They're willing to do it for you. But self-defense, cooking with kids. I would
Mm-hmm.
love to learn how to make dog treats for
Mm-hmm.
Finn. There's things I've always wanted to do that time has just kept me from doing. So if you have that kind of knowledge, how to bake a good cookie, how to create an escape room for your kids, how to, create a fort, like
Mm-hmm.
how to, do a dance, like a TikTok, whatever it is. Everybody is a wealth of knowledge, and there's so much creative content out there that no idea is really a bad idea. Well, I shouldn't say that, but
Most are good.
most ideas are not bad ideas. Makeup, how to give yourself a blowout right now,
Mm-hmm.
how to color your own hair. Like,
Yeah.
I miss my hairdresser, Kim. If you're out there, I'm dying. I'm dying. Look at my nails. I'm dying. I need my Botox. I need my hair done. But makeup, hair, anything like that, how to do your eyebrows. Like, I fucking tune into that shit right now.
Yeah.
If Andrea Sensei is still on there, Andrea, if you want to host a self defense, I'm into that. I've always wanted to learn that. So that was all the topics. I know we tried to keep it short. It was a little bit long. And again, we tried to keep it casual. People always ask, Jess and I for time to pick our brains, and we're willing to give it now. So next week we'll talk about, and maybe we'll do it more than once a week, but next week we're going to do some easy PR strategies, and then we're going to move on to digital marketing, and then who knows where we'll go from that.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you would like to close with?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I do.
Oh, is it?
I don't get this opportunity to put you on blast very much, but I thought this would be a good time. I just want you to know that I love you very much. I miss you terribly.
I know.
I miss you so much. I can't wait till the day comes where you, me, and our girls, and Andrea, and everybody, and Brenda, and Jesse, and Nancy, and Angelina, and Tu, and everybody can just be together. And until then, At least we can see each other's faces, and hopefully Jess and I can be a little bit of help for any of our fellow small business or professionals that are out there. And tell your friends, we'll do this every Wednesday. Next week, I promise I'll drink wine. All right. Well, I think that's it. So good night, everybody. You stay safe. Everybody be good. And we will talk to you next week.
Talk to you then. Cheers.
Bye.